easily one of South Africa's busiest speakers. Who inspired you to pursue professional speaking?
Well, I started off down the Toastmasters route actually, and come a long way since then. But I saw some of the past world champions in action, and it blew my mind how far you can go in the world of professional speaking. And I think most of us tend to see the business side of things and not necessarily the craft of actual presenting. I came in from the other side. I was exposed to the art of the thing first, and then built the business up after that. And it's given me a lifelong love of the delivery mechanism itself.
And what is it that you love most about it?
It's such a wonderful combination of psychology and theatre. It's all the best of what we do as people. We take meaning, we find maps and ways forward, and we turn it into entertaining ways of looking at the world. This is more than just a business. It's a life, it's a calling, and it's that wonderful mix of philosophy, psychology, entertainment. It's switching on human minds. What could be better?
Switching on human minds.
Yeah.
I like that. I might just use that. I will, of course, give you one of those.
Excellent, thank you.
Conversely, what do you dislike most about professional speaking?
I think the most difficult thing we ever face is audiences that don't want to learn. What we do is help people grow, but you can't force people to grow. And when you come across a group of people who are just so set in their ways that they will not hear a message, so uninspired that their work doesn't mean anything to them, it's very difficult to get through, and it can be disheartening for us as well. I remember one of the worst disasters I ever had. Early in my career, I did some training for a large mobile services group, and I was supposed to fly down to another city and train this group of people. 3 of them rocked up on the day, and their management took over the boardroom we were supposed to be using, and they gave us the broom closet. I remember phoning my wife Vanessa and saying, I don't know how I'm going to go on. It was soul destroying. But we go on because it's what we do.
Okay, so that's probably, I would think, your worst experience as a speaker.
I would say so, yes.
Is there a funniest experience?
I've had bizarre things happen to me, some that I'm not sure I can even talk about. Probably the worst of which was, all right, we'll do the sanitized version. The worst of which was when an IT guy used his memory stick and in the middle of my presentation, I start speaking to the audience. He's supposed to put his memory stick with my presentation into the laptop, and it brings up his collection of hardcore imagery.
Oh dear Lord.
On the screen behind me while I'm talking to the audience.
No,
yes.
That stuff doesn't happen in real life.
It happened to me. 200 people and myself in the room.
And
I was the last person.
You're still getting all about it. No.
I was the last person to realize what was happening on the screen behind me. People gasp and you sort of perform all the obvious bodily checks to see if something has gone wrong.
How did you handle it?
Oh, what can you do? I mean, I turned around, saw what was happening, and the best I could come up with was, that's not mine. 20 years of Toastmasters training does not prepare you for that.
I'm sure. Sure. As I said, you're one of the busiest speakers in the country. Why have you succeeded in the field where so many have not?
I think I was very fortunate to start young and to see this as my life as opposed to a career choice. I did a little bit of work as a journalist, and really that was the first couple of years of my working career. And when I discovered that there was such a creature as a full-time professional speaker, I mean, I'd just been doing it to add something to my CV, I literally quit my job and made this my life's calling. And it never even dawned on me that a bad month or a bad 6-month stretch was a sign that I shouldn't be doing this. I was too young and too naive to understand that there was a possibility of failure, and I think that's worked in my favor. Thank God for family and friends. Absolutely, and my wife who works full-time, because this is a strangely cyclical business. You can have incredible months and periods of drought. But I think I try to take every aspect of it as seriously as I possibly can. I love the art and the theatre of presenting, and I mean, to this day I'm listening to audiobooks about how to raise the degree to which your message connects, the artistry of the delivery, how to use your voice, the psychology behind it. It is a lifelong study, and that's in addition to the business side of things, which in addition is a lifelong pursuit.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I try and grow them all at the same time, but I take them very seriously.
Did you study?
I did. I have a degree in communication and philosophy, for what that's worth. I have actually...
It's exactly what you do.
Yeah, it is what I do.
Philosophy.
Yeah. Funny enough, I had a recent debate about this one with some speaker friends on social media. I'm very tempted to take philosophy to a doctorate, simply because I love philosophy. At the same time, I don't know that I see the value. And that may be a bizarre thing to say, but I love the field, but I don't know that the doctorate would make any difference whatsoever. The books that I have published with Penguin, I think, are credible milestones in what we do. I think a doctorate would be massively time-consuming and actually not that important.
Unless your ego was involved.
Unless your ego is involved. And we don't have ego as speakers, probably. You've worked with us long enough to know.
Friends.
We're humble
20
folk, us.
years of
Simple,
dealing with
simple
you.
rural people. Yeah. Sitting on a log playing our banjo.
Switching track.
Yes.
Who is your celebrity crush?
Nigella Lawson, undoubtedly.
I knew that.
Yes, my wife and I watch the show religiously, but for vastly different reasons.
I'm pretty sure I knew that already.
It's actually about my only celebrity crush, although I'd chuck Jeremy Clarkson in there for good measure. And I speak about both of them in my talk on expert positioning, where I use them as the example that both Clarkson and Nigella are big personalities in their field. They are adequately skilled, but not necessarily the most highly technically skilled or qualified. I mean, Clarkson, he has an honorary doctorate, but realistically, he only just squeaked his way through high school. So when you look at them, there is a lot more going on than just the technical qualifications. And I think that's quite important for aspiring experts. Yeah.
I like that. So, I know that Mikey has just celebrated his first birthday recently. So the next question is kind of moot, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Alrighty.
What's your favourite thing to do outside of work?
Well, I would say at the moment it's kneeling next to a bath and having a 1.4-year-old stark naked stand up and go, Dada, Dada. It's adorable.
Oh.
He's just started really saying my name and communicating with us. And I mean, geez, I think about the guy and I tear up. I adore him. So,
Excellent.
yeah.
I know, I can relate to that
Yeah.
very strongly.
You also tear up when you think about my son. That's
No.
weird, right?
No, I don't think I've met your son yet,
Oh.
so that's not accurate.
Right.
Yeah, that feeling it's
It's astonishing, it really is. It goes to the core of who and what we are as a species.
overwhelming, actually, that love for it.
Absolutely.
Totally overwhelming. So, I mean, you've accomplished so much in your speaking career. You just got your CSP.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Great. Thank you so much.
You've won the World Championship of Toastmasters.
I came second in the World Championships, but I've won our Southern African Championships a few times. Yeah.
But more than once. Okay, so is it the winning that is the last elusive thing?
It is elusive. I don't know that it's the most important thing to me, but definitely it forms part of the sort of the meaningfulness of what I try to do.
To win the World Championship.
Yes, yeah.
But certainly that must take a back seat now of mine.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
I think we're very blessed in this particular world that we can spend a bit of time with family. I mean, the travel is heavy, but when you're not traveling, you have a lot more quality family time, and I really like that.
That's come through strongly this morning as well, is the freedom to spend time with your family,
yes,
as well as earn an income.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that our children can look at us as people who are pursuing something meaningful. We are not just doing a thing that takes up time.
Oh.
We're kind of humans on a mission, and meaningfulness is very important to us, and it's important our kids see that in us.
No, actually, that's such a profound point, because Geordie gets to see who we work with, and we talk about them all the time. And
I mean, you guys are in the business of changing lives and industries and levels of prosperity.
And so that happens around the table, and we talk about, so-and-so, or we met so-and-so, or Joey Evans came, and I'm actually sorry that she didn't sit in at 10. I'm sorry that she didn't sit in on his talk, because he just blew our minds with his story. And so, I'm hoping that
Joey's fantastic. He's a good person.
Isn't he?
Yeah, I like him.
That by osmosis, this
Yes.
incredible life
Yeah.
that we are blessed to live as a community of speakers and us bloody agents, that we do get to change people's lives. How lucky are we?
That's fantastic.
How blessed are we? Okay, so I know about the voice. Obviously, everyone on earth knows about the voice.
Well, thank you.
Do you have any hidden talents?
I can juggle, believe it or not.
Wow!
Yes,
Cool.
if that counts. I'll tell you what I can do is I can draw reasonably well. When I was about 10, 11 years old, I had a little cartoon strip published in our local newspaper. And at one stage, that was going to be the career path. I was reasonably good at my little cartoons. I had a 3-panel strip called Michael Angelo, about a little angel, walking around on his cloud and having little adventures and so on. So, yeah, here's one.
Wow, I'm feeling more and more like an underachiever by the minute, I have to tell you. Right, if you were a crayon,
If I were a crayon.
What colour would you be?
Oh, I was going to how hard would you? Okay, no.
No.
I would be
Not even
a gleaming carbon authoritative dark blue.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not surprised
Oh.
by that.
Now, I don't know the framework here, but I fear I've given away much psychology in that little answer.
You just did. You have no idea.
Thank you, Clarice.
Speaking of movies, brilliantly. It's like we rehearsed this
Yes.
stuff. I mean, that's my next question. What's your favourite movie of all time?
By miles, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which starts off being a great romp and wonderful special effects. The longer you live, the more depth you see in it. There are layers of meaning in that book and in that movie that you could spend your life studying it. Vanessa and I were talking the other day about one of the differences between Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. And at the most basic level, Game of Thrones is about power relationships. Mm-hmm. Lord of the Rings is about good versus evil. Mm-hmm. And you can go into so much depth when you say those two things. It is profoundly deep, and there is much to it.
You don't think Game of Thrones is necessarily good or evil?
No, I think it's much more amoral. And for that reason, perhaps a lot closer to real life. Lord of the Rings is much more idealistic.
Okay. Yeah. I was just saying to Sonia that I think what gets us about Game of Thrones is, what gets me, is that it is so real. That good doesn't always work.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, people do clever things and die anyway. People do stupid things and it works.
People
and
do
so
good
on
things
and so forth.
and die anyway. Gruesome, horrible,
yeah, it's that surprise factor that makes the...
psychologically scarring deaths.
So, I feel like you've watched the show before, right?
No, once or twice.
How do you feel about it, Bert?
Love it. Well, you know what I don't like about Game of Thrones is that it's turned me into a statistic.
In what sense?
Well, now I'm one of 7 million.
Oh, okay, you're a Thrones watcher. It's like calling yourself a Trekkie.
What the heck?
Yeah.
And then, even worse, I'm sitting with 7 million other people waiting.
Yes, for the next one.
For the next one.
Yeah.
I have to say, the anarchist in me deeply resents.
Yes,
Okay.
and that says a lot about your psychology. That says, I don't want to be part of a big mass group.
I don't.
Individualism.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Bitcoin. So, what is your favourite quote out of a movie or out of a book or something that you've read?
Do you know, and I'm not sure I'll get it word perfect, but again from Lord of the Rings, it's a little conversation between Frodo and Samwise at the sort of the edge of all hopelessness where Frodo says, why are we doing this? You know, what's the point? Why do we go on? And Sam basically says, we do this because there is good in the world and it's worth fighting for. And you can see the reaction I have to that. There's so much to that movie, and that's one of the things that gets to me. Even after the darkness, the light will come out again, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Okay, so based on that, what advice would you give to your 16-year-old self?
Don't be afraid. We spend so much of our lives living in fear. We worry what other people think about us. We worry about failing. We are anxiety and nerve-ridden creatures, and none of it really helps us. Don't be afraid.
I honestly think that people are going to think that we practiced this year. So my last question.
Yeah.
Robert Frost talks about paths less travelled. One of my seminal poems. One of my few poems in my life. Given what you've just told me about not being afraid,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that you've come to more than one fork in your road.
Yeah.
Is there one particular fork in your road? Not that you regret, but that you wonder about?
Yes, and I think the obvious ones are sort of past relationships where you wonder where that could have gone. But I think probably the ones that I really do think quite deeply about to this day are career paths. The cartooning was one. It sounds like such a silly little thing to do, but it brings joy to people. And there's something very meaningful about that. Not only that, but Charles Schulz, the author of the Peanuts comic strips, Forbes has him as the 3rd highest posthumous dead guy. So highest earning, so just behind Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley. So there was money to be made there. Yes. Anywho, the other one is writing fiction. I'm up to seven, depends which publisher you look at, but 7 books, non-fiction books now. I've actually written 3 novels, and I've never had one published. So a part of me kind of goes, I still wonder, is that a way to go? Is that something worth looking at? The thing is, though, it is such a massive investment because writing a book is not a quick incidental. But yeah, that plays on my mind a little. Yeah.
Okay. So then, speaking of your 7 books, very last question, I promise. Of all of them, so there's a keynote that goes with each.
With each one, yes.
Of all of them, if I had to say to you, Douglas, now or never, which one is your favourite?
Okay.
Which talk is your favourite?
All right. So, although the 2 talks I do most often are on innovation, which is rule-breaking and relentlessly relevant, 2 books inform that. The other one that I do most often is on how to be an expert, 2 books inform that. The one I never get to do is the one I love the most. The book is titled, Is Your Thinking Keeping You Poor? 50 Ways the Rich Think Differently. I came from a background in which we were not desperately poverty-stricken, but we went through some very bad times. I can remember a winter when we had our power cut off and we didn't have the option of having it put back on. The church fed us with food baskets, and I particularly distinctly remember my younger sister was so small that when these food baskets arrived, they would contain a small box of baby formula. And I can remember my emotional reaction to that sense of vulnerability looking at that and my little sister. That book is a study of the real, provable, demonstrable, practical differences between self-made millionaires and billionaires and families that get stuck in generational cycles of poverty. What really works, what can you actually do to get out of poverty and think differently? My heart and soul is in that one. Problem with it, though, one of the major points is to become rich, work for yourself, don't work for a company. You know? So, hire us to come and speak to your employees about it. Doesn't happen that often, yeah. There are ways in which it does segment into corporate life, though, where I make the point that the value that you grow within yourself translates into the value that you have in your life financially. So even within a corporate career, there are smarter and worse moves that you can make, and the book points that out too.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.